Welcome to the Challenge Chronicles. I'm Devin Jordan. Today I'm here with Mr. TJ and Mr. Rob. We are here to discuss episode 2 of Spies, Lies, and Allies. We wanted to give a couple, before we get started, we wanted to give a shout out to a couple of our patrons. Tori, I'm going to butcher this, so please forgive me. Tori Chenevert, I'm sorry, and Max Posner, slightly easier one to say. We really appreciate your support and everything that you've done for the podcast. It helps us be able to produce more and better content. If you yourself would like to become a patron and listen to more content than you're currently hearing from us today, you can go to patreon.com/The Challenge Chronicles and subscribe for $4 a month. We try and do one additional episode per week. Last week, we continued with our best episode ever series for the challenge, where we discussed Benedict Laurel from War of the Worlds 2. Had a great conversation, and we keep doing other random bonus stuff each week.
And before you go further, Devin, for those of you that had not watched Benedict Laurel and wanted to watch before you listened, Paramount Plus added the War of the Worlds 2 season today. So if you subscribe to Paramount Plus, you can watch Benedict Laurel and then check out that bonus episode.
I legit think we can almost do a part 2 of that podcast and just continue talking about that episode for another hour.
We probably could have.
I mean, we talked about on it. We could talk about that episode for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there was so much that we just didn't even talk about.
Yeah.
When we do, so when we get to, so this brings up, if you're listening, if you're a newer listener to us, you were probably not aware that how we originally started. And one of the main things that we do is we go back and watch the older seasons and do a podcast or a number of podcasts on each of the older seasons and go episode by episode, scene by scene of an older season. We just got done with the first 2 episodes of The Ruins, and we've done all the way from the original Battle of the Seasons through the first 2 episodes of The Ruins. When we do War of the Worlds 2, I don't even know if we should do it again or if we should just post that episode.
No, we should definitely do it. We just said we could talk about it for another 2 hours.
That's going to be its own episode.
Yeah, it would be.
Like,
I mean,
if we did the episode with Wes, because those are 90-minute episodes too, Rob. Think about it. Like, if we did the episode with Wes,
we've got a lot of time before we get to
Yeah, we got a good ways to go. We're still just
I mean, who even knows what podcast inventions will occur by then? So,
I mean, it's going to be like a decade from now at the rate that we're moving.
I feel like it's going to be like Battle of the Seasons, where we cover like the first. We do like the first maybe 4 episodes, the next 4, and then the next 8, and then just like, all right, let's just get through these. Let's mush out here.
But so for those of you that aren't Patreons, the full archive of everything we've done is on Patreon. Right now, we only have 2 or 3 seasons up that are the Chronicles. So check them out. Good stuff.
We're here today to talk about Spies, Lies, and Allies, episode 2. I thought this episode was all right. It was pretty good.
I thought the mission was bad, and I thought the rest of it was very good.
I am 100% in Rob's court. The mission was terrible. The rest of the episode was very good.
Sweet Jesus. I mean, when I saw the setup for what the mission was going to be in my mind, I just thought, I
was like, oh my God. I really, really would want to see their market research data on like what segment of the fan base is like all in on these missions that spend more time, like spend more in their investment budget and explosions than like actually interesting things happen.
It's like, we've talked about this so much, and if you're listening and you're one of the producers, you can't do this shit. Like, you can't have, how many pairs do they have at this point, Bob? How many do they have?
They have 16, right? Because they only eliminated 1 pair.
16 pairs.
You can't have 16 pairs and have 2 of the pairs go at once, and so that's 8 groups at that point. You can't just have them go and do the same thing over
It's also not even like
and over and over.
It's not even like they're doing like an athletic event. Like, it's not like they're doing. There's not like, because like there's some missions that take a long time. Like the second mission in War of the Worlds 1. It's like the one where they have to run through and find the ball, and then they give the ball to the partner in the mud pit, and they have to run to the mud pit and they attack each other. There's at least a lot of stuff happening. This, but they're just tossing things down from a helicopter. Yeah, it's a lame version of cornhole.
It's just difficult to tell who's actually doing well, right? Because you're just seeing snapshots of what's going on.
It's literally just the results at the end. It's like, oh, wow, Mayo and Casey, 28. They did a good job.
Yeah, and the thing, I mean, the only thing I can say that was good about it is thank God, because as long as they took on the first couple rounds, I was like, are we really going to sit through 30 minutes of this mission? Because that's the pace we're going. Thankfully, the last few rounds, they sped it up and just was like, okay, we just need to show 15 seconds of this. And thank God they did, because It was brutal. Like, I get what they were going for, but it just was overkill. And then it was even more overkill. I mean, shoot, they spent more on pyro than they did on all of the missions combined from All Stars.
They need to. We've talked about this before. This is definitely one of those missions where I'm sure it's way more fun to participate in than it is to watch.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, it must be just one of those one for them, one for the cast missions that they just have to do a couple of to keep them interested. But
what do you think?
Like, I feel like they should be engaged no matter what it is, though. Like, I think if you're risking your cast not being engaged because your mission is boring, that's already a problem. Your cast should be engaged because they're competing on a show already.
Think about the drone mission from last season.
That's what I was about to say. That mission, the cast hated and the viewers hated it. So, nobody was happy.
I want to know if the same people that did the missions for All Stars do the missions for this season. Is it the same people?
I'm sure there's some fluidity in who's involved.
Because it seems like the quality of mission that we got on All Stars is pretty distant from what we've experienced on the main show for a while.
Yeah, it just is.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully this is that the rest of these missions won't be that bad. I thought the one from the first episode was good. The one from next week seems like it's going to be fine. And hopefully they just keep them in that vein.
I would agree. We won't spoil it for people that don't watch the previews, but the mission for next week does look way more interesting than this was. It looks like there's multiple teams going at the same time, stuff like that. So
it's not even like this is like a skills-based mission at all. I mean, they're just tossing the bags from a helicopter.
Again, we will offer our services to consult on.
The thing is, we'll also trim their budget by like 80%. Like that's part of our pitch here.
I don't know, dude. I bet you a lot of these people make way less than you think.
I'm saying trim their budget of like of their explosions budget. We don't need that.
Oh yeah, no, you don't need that crap.
I mean, think about this mission, okay? Seriously, think about the money. You rented a helicopter. You've got the fuel. You've got the pilots. You have 2 Range Rovers. You have the 2 people that have to be licensed stunt drivers to
and
do that.
The helicopter drivers.
I already said that.
The helicopter crew. Oh, okay.
And then you had all the barricades, and TJ drove in a Lambo.
It ran all the explosions.
Yeah, I mean, literally, this one mission costs more than every mission combined from All Stars. Literally.
Their first thing when they show up to the location must be, all right, where's the nearest runway and where's the nearest like rundown explosive store? Like that's just got to be their first two hookups, right? Are they shipping these things in from the state? You think, or are they just buying them there?
I bet they ship in a lot.
And there's probably some of both. It is just beyond ridiculous at this point. Like whoever the pyrotechnician is at MTV must have like a lot of stake.
Well, the one thing that is a positive about missions like this, and this is me trying to find the shining light in everything, at least they're spending money on this show. It used to be they were pinching pennies so tight they screamed. Now at least they've opened the purse strings, but maybe there's too much of a good thing. Maybe they need to okay, we have this much budget for this mission. Maybe we don't need to use all of it.
This is the equivalent of the Jets just blowing their entire bankload on Le'Veon Bell. That's what they're doing.
It really is. Yes, that's what it is. Hopefully they end up cutting the explosions out of their budget like the Jets did with Bell.
I am confident that we could come up with a significantly better product with a quarter of the budget.
I mean, I think a reapportioned budget.
Yeah.
You don't need this crap. Realistically, what are you doing with a helicopter?
I think there has to be some type of testing market research. There just has to they have to be looking at.
Rob. I think you're giving them way too much credit. I think
this is a multi-million-dollar operation,
dude. Rob, I think a lot of this is we have the money, we might as well spend it, right?
Yeah.
And
spend it on something else. Give them a better house.
I agree with you. I think it's they're being negligent with how they're investing it.
Or if you're going to do a mission like this, there's a few tweaks they could have made that wouldn't have cost them that much more money that would have made it way more interesting.
So you know what I would do with the money? Finish. I didn't mean to cut you off. Finish what you were about to say. And then
No, there's a couple things they could have done to make this way more interesting in terms of viewership. If you're going to do the helicopter piece of this and you're going to do the Range Rover piece of this, you have a runway. So instead of it being so just strap and throw, what if you're throwing, different sized objects down, like really make it a little bizarre what they're throwing down there, make it harder to catch, because I mean, the teams that did bad were just terrible, but the teams that did well, it was just like playing a carnival game. They were just dropping it and it was just, going straight in. Just try to make the objects differing in size so that it's at least a little more interesting. And then the other thing they could have done is put stakes on it. We've talked about this.
There was
no stakes. Everybody knew,
especially for the veterans.
Yeah, Emmanuel and Casey, the moment they went, they immediately knew, okay, at least Casey is going to win, because none of these other rookies are going to do it, just based on performance that we're having here. So what incentive was there for Kyle and Amanda to like kick ass here? Very little.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they need to award points based on performance in the mission. You spend those points on advantages throughout the game. It's the way to fix it.
There was an episode where you were on where I brought this up with Trace. I even said that I think what you said is a really good idea. Also, what they could do is something where that determines how much your vote is actually worth when you vote for that specific round.
Yeah, I think that'd be something similar, but I'd be cool with that, something like that too.
Something like that, where you're rewarding the performance in the mission. So what I was going to say is, instead of spending all this money on explosions, you know what we're going to do with this money? We're going to invest this money on the fucking cast. And we're going to get some blue chip people out there, and we're going to make a better show.
I mean, I actually will agree with you to a point. I actually think that the majority of these rookies they've cast, while they might not be all athletic monsters, there's some really good personalities that started to emerge. I think this cast
has been pretty good so far.
So, like, I'm willing to pump the brake a little bit there.
That's not me hating on this cast. It's saying that we can do better than this cast, right? Like, you can think that this cast is good and still think that you can have a better cast.
Sure. I mean, I think, yeah. We can get into it now, so we don't just have the first 45 minutes of this episode be us complaining about the situation. When we all agree, I think this was actually a pretty good episode.
Yeah, I didn't think it was bad at all. Yeah.
If you like Rob said,
we got plenty of drama with Nelson working his love triangle back and forth. I mean, shocker! I mean, only one episode for that to explode. I think that actually went over on the betting line there, though.
I expected it to explode before the end of the preview episode. That's how tenuous I felt that thing was.
Yeah, I'm curious what happens from there.
Rob, before we get into any of this, let's talk about everything that happened that we found out between last week and this week.
Okay, we should cover so much.
Let's just talk about this now.
We can try to move through it somewhat quickly, but there's a lot that happened. The best resource that I found for this is Michelle, Amanda, and Ashley did an Instagram Live where they were pretty open about talking about the situation from the quarantine that we had previously discussed, and all the circumstances surrounding that. So essentially, like, how much of it do we want to get into? Like,
all of it. Go. Just do it quick.
Oh, Christ. Okay. So basically what happened was that there was a COVID outbreak amongst the cast that we know of. That's why Nam was sent home. He was diagnosed with COVID from what we know, and then his symptoms were bad enough where he was not able to continue in the game. Multiple other contestants were also diagnosed with COVID. Big T was mentioned. Berna was mentioned. I forget who the other ones were, but a couple other people were mentioned. Their symptoms were noticeable, but from what we understand, they were okay enough where they could continue on. There was a 10-day quarantine in between, like, the first mission and once the elimination happened, which, just thinking about it in your head, is crazy that there was a 10-day gap there. And that had multiple other factors, because so when that quarantine happened, Trace, you can chime in on this part of it, because I'm not sure about this.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, the cast was part of the quarantine happens. Part of the cast is in the house and part of the cast is in hotels, or like, how did that situation work?
Yep. So originally they tried to quarantine everybody in the house, which I think is accurate. Okay. Like, I haven't been able to 100% double source this, but it seems accurate enough from what I've heard. But then some of the people that were showing more symptoms, they were eventually moved. And there was also a lot of drama about them shutting the gym down.
Okay, well, we can talk about
that in a minute. But basically, yeah. So some of the people eventually that had more symptoms got pulled out of the house. Like Nam was moved out of the house. Big T was moved out of the house. Stuff like that. So, yeah, there you go.
So with the gym situation, that's actually pretty important, because So since the house was divided like that, apparently somebody that was in the hotel as part of the quarantine said that they thought it was unfair for people to still be allowed to use the gym at the house because the people in the hotel couldn't use the gym and couldn't stay in shape, which I think is somewhat valid. Like, I don't think that's a bad claim. And then for whatever reason, everybody assumed it was Corey L. I never heard why that was the case. If it was just somebody trying to start something, like we saw Josh try to do this episode, or if there was actually anything.
That's
credible behind
rumor.
that.
Could be true. Could be false.
Yeah,
but
I have zero clue as to why that was.
Yeah.
So that's
I can understand why the person in the hotel felt that way. But it's like, think about all the people stuck at the house that have nothing to do. Like
they don't have anything to do either in the hotel.
I know, but if you can work out, I mean, that's a good way to chew up a couple hours a day.
Yeah,
and it's
I buy what they're saying. Where it is like, imagine if in like the NBA, half the teams are allowed to practice, half the teams aren't based on where they are. Like, that's not going to.
I mean, that happened.
No, they had. I mean, look. I mean, who knows what they were actually up to? But they had consistent practice restrictions.
I get it. If I'm in the hotel, I'm going to at least try to make that argument, but it doesn't hold a whole lot of water for me. It's just like, hey, it sucks that you're in the hotel. It sucks that you tested positive for COVID, but like, you're not going to punish the rest of the cast. That's fine. Like, sorry. Like, I get the point, but I just don't buy that.
It's also, I mean, 10 days is a long time. Like, that's a lot. In the scope of this show, where usually it goes mission, elimination, confessional in a 3-4 day span, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Go
ahead. Sorry.
Well, so then I think that also played partially into. I think the 10-day quarantine also did not help the Survivor players. They were also told that they were being pushed to the side. Like, people were trying to push them out of the group once everybody's getting ground for a while.
Which makes this episode seem super random, because after last week, where they were all pretty much on the fence, there was no mention of the remaining Survivor people going in when they easily could have.
Well, so Kells apparently, and you saw some of it this episode, but a lot of the thing is that he did a lot of homework coming into this episode. I mean, you even saw him mention a lot of stuff that's from the show that, like, you would, like Hall Brawl, like he mentioned that by name. Like he had. When everybody understood, he had a very good understanding of the show, and he's also 6'6" football player. Like, come on, dude. So I think he just had such a blaring target on his back. I know Michelle too. Something happened with the two of them where she was kind of peeved at him.
Yeah, for anyone that was on board with this apparent rookie alliance, or the idea that they would be able to pull their shit together, the thing is, there was just no way it was going to happen.
The thing is that you need all of them, which is the problem. Because I think clearly we can see there are some people who know what they're up to. I think Kells clearly knew what he was up to. He got really screwed this episode in like 17 different ways. And then Priscilla, I think she's shown some understanding of what she's up to. Tasha was also involved in that conversation. I think Ed, it seems like he kind of knows he knew he was about to get thrown in.
I've been very impressed with Ed to this point.
Yeah, I like the energy he brings too. He brings a fun energy to me. But the thing is, it's just like, you don't just need 6 or 7 smart people to know what's going on. You need Gabo, you need Bettina, you need everybody to be on the same.
You need Gabo, who's just happy to be there and doesn't really know why he's there, but he's happy to be on American television.
You need Bettina and her her 9-second laugh to be on the same page.
Oh my gosh. I was going to bring this up. You know what her laugh sounded like? It sounded like a donkey with asthma. Like, that is how.
I don't even think her laugh is the most ridiculous part of that scene. I thought
it was Corey's turn.
Corey's hair is one of the most ridiculous haircuts I've ever seen.
Really? I didn't even notice Corey's hair.
Dude, we should do the loser of some bet this season has to do their hair like Corey.
Well,
I don't think any of our hair is long enough to pull that off.
That's part of the bet. You have to grow it long enough to be able to do it. But
I will not participate in that bet.
The counterpoint to the fall of the Rookie Alliance is the success of the Veteran Alliance to this point. It appears to be as healthy as can be when there were numerous opportunities for it to go south. Tori could have told Kells. Fessy could have thrown in a veteran to go in against Kells, who would have assuredly gone home. Everyone has stayed the course.
Yeah, I mean, Esther could have just decided not to vote with Fessy, too, and that could have thrown a wrench into things. I did think Kells handled himself very well in the deliberation when Josh tries to gaslight him.
Dude.
And he's just like,
Holy.
No, I'm not doing that. And if I was doing that, you are not somebody who's tactically astute enough to be able to catch on to it.
No, here I have the exact quote. Where is it, dude?
Oh, dude, I really want him to come back. I was really,
I do
says-
too.
yeah,
So
I really like him.
let's set
for
the
this first
scene.
episode.
So Josh calls out Kells. He says that he's heard that he's been scheming and making deals with rookies and veterans alike to be able to go to the inn with them. Kells has not been doing this. This is just Josh's ploy to try and get Kells thrown in by the house into elimination. And Kells goes, Josh, no offense, you're known to be the tactical smartest person in the room. And then, in quote, and then he goes on to say, if there was anyone that was going to catch him doing that, it's not going to be him.
Kells has definitely watched the challenge before. By that statement.
He definitely knows what he's doing. And the thing is, Josh really didn't even have to do that. I mean, they could just vote him in.
Yeah, it was kind of dumb on his part, but it made for good television. I think he did it because everybody knew the outcome before they walked in that room.
I also think it's like the producers like guys, somebody has to say something. We're not just going to sit here like idiots and have nobody talk. Somebody needs to talk.
It's like that episode of Survivor where Jeff Probst was having a tribal council and it was so bad he just calls it off and says, okay, people are giving me nothing here. Y'all are going to walk out and you're going to walk back in and we're going to try this a second time.
It wasn't even that it was a tribal council. It was the final of Marquesas. And they filmed the entire final tribal council, and he goes, you guys are giving me fucking nothing. We're doing this again. And they just recorded the final tribal council.
I always wonder, are they doing that now with these explosion shots? Sorry to go back to that, but the cast can't be this excited to see these things at this point. They see it 7 times a season.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably not. At least for the vets.
Because the thing is with him, so he gets targeted pretty much just because he seems like he knows what he's up to, which he does, and then he's also 6'6" football player, seems like he could be a problem. The way the eliminations work is he's just randomly paired with Tracy, who just it's a rough way to go.
In my notes, multiple times I've written down I feel bad for Tracy because
she just did not seem like she was there, man.
Well, I think her English is, if you judged all of the foreigners by the strength of their English from poorest to best, is there anyone at this point that seems like they speak worse English than her? Like, no judgment on her.
I mean, outside of Nelson, that's probably it.
Who?
Her and Nelson.
I said outside of Nelson, that's probably it. And she did talk about that, the language barrier, in addition to just you see these people in this house. Like it can be an anxious environment if you're not prepared to go into it. So I don't think they vetted her enough. I felt bad for her, but then it's one of those where I felt bad for her because she clearly just shouldn't have been in that environment, and I also felt bad for him because he was put with somebody who shouldn't have been in that environment. And this elimination is there's really anything he can even do. He's just pulling her up and down. She just has to grab the blocks with a magnet.
I did like this elimination though. I actually thought this was pretty clever. We'll get to it in a few minutes, but there's one other thing we should talk about before we get a whole lot further into this, because I'm actually kind of pissed about it a little bit. So Lauren Coogan was unceremoniously, kicked to the curb off screen, and Josh gets Amber B as his partner, which I think, that's great. And here's the thing. The producers knew from the beginning of coming home that Lauren Coogan was going to get sent home for a reason that had nothing to do with COVID. The rumor is she said something racial towards Anissa. That's the rumor. I don't know this for sure. That's the rumor. And so because it was a racial situation, they just completely edited her out of the season. They advertised her in all the blogs. She did interviews for the show, all of that stuff, and she didn't even get 1 second of screen time. Now, I'm not condoning if it was a racial situation, what she said or what she did at all. But to me, if you're going to advertise someone and you are going to plug them and have them do interviews, you should at least show why they went home, or at least explain why she went home on camera instead of just, hey, Lauren's gone.
Saving her at that point.
Probably.
Well, didn't she come out? She kind of came out in defense of herself a little bit on social media, didn't she?
Well,
I think someone
she did
posted
to
about that
somebody,
in
but she
Discord.
also didn't. I didn't see her push back on why she was eliminated, though. She was just saying, "Oh, I was in an anxious, I had a lot of anxiety. Was in an anxious." It was one of those things where she gives reasons why that
I
happened.
think she
but
said
didn't
that she
push
was
back.
gaslit, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
On
But
Twitter?
she didn't. But she did also did. But like, she didn't give another reason why she was eliminated, though.
Yeah.
It's not like that's not why. It's like
Well, I
it's
mean,
not like Lolo, where Lolo says that Lolo.
She probably can't reveal why, right?
Probably.
Probably,
Or maybe she can.
maybe
Maybe
not.
she
I
doesn't
mean,
want
I
to.
really, what happens here? This is just another Eddie situation from Vendettas, which everybody forgets about because it's the
He was
exact
on
same
camera for
situation.
0 seconds.
He's shown like helping Johnny up the hill. That's all he gets. And then so for him, what happened was he was also in all the promotional footage. If you go back and look at it, I mean, there's plenty of stuff where he's involved with Cam and with Alicia and his whole storyline that was supposed to be for that season. And then him was actually this is a horrendous job on their production department. But apparently, again, allegedly, Alicia had a restraining order on him from a different incident on that season. And then he's also like they found out about it like there, and then he's removed from the show, which is beyond crazy when you think about how if that is the case again that their legal department misses that. But like I don't know, man. I don't feel either way about it. She hasn't given any pushback on why she was eliminated, so I would think that's why. I don't think I like it. Clearly, her and the show did not get along, so I don't think that she's gaining anything by like the show airing anything she does at all. And I think and it's also probably like if it was Anissa who was the victim in the situation, there's a decent chance she goes up to MTV and is like, look, I have had, unfortunately, multiple incidents already that have been aired of me being treated in this manner on this program. I would prefer that this one does not get aired.
Yeah. And you know what?
I don't know. Like, I mean, go ahead, Trace.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. But she was doing interviews and they were talking like she was going to be an active member of this cast, which apparently she was. It's just been edited out. But like, don't put her out there on Front Street.
No, they shouldn't do that.
They shouldn't do that. I mean, people know who she is from Love Island. Love Island's a semi-decent popular show. Like, people knew that. And then you don't show her. It's a pretty big bait and switch, in my opinion. And it's the same thing with Eddie on Vendettas. Like, he's all over the promotional materials and all this stuff, and then they just edit him out. Like, don't show someone who has a following and yank them off. If she is getting removed, you know, say, hey, she's a member of the cast, and you move on. You don't let her do interviews. You don't make a big deal out of it. You don't have her. You don't show her promotional photo as part of the cast.
On the cast bios for the season. I'm gonna look it up now.
Yes,
I don't remember if she was or not.
She was, because I remember seeing Love Island US on there. I wouldn't have picked her on my fantasy team if they hadn't given her any promo time. And I'm not just saying that I'm bitter about that. I could have changed it before today, but I didn't. But here's the deal, though. It's a huge, to me, it's just a big bait and switch. Like, if you're not going to air this person and you're going to promote them, don't promote them. Like, let's just pretend that she's not on the cast, period. And let's not put any promo materials out about her or anything like that. Let's just move on. But they didn't do that. And that's why I'm like, you know.
I think that's fair.
So Lauren Coogan goes home. Amber B is brought in. And I feel like I will forever refer to her as Amber B, even though that there is not another Amber on this cast.
Yeah.
Yep.
She now becomes Josh's partner. I think one of the funniest moments of this episode, there were a couple of really good ones. Two of my favorite moments from this episode. Actually, I think my three favorite moments from this episode all involve Josh. The one that I'm thinking about right now.
By Kells. Yeah.
That one, this one that I'm about to talk about now, where Josh and Fessy, they pretty much portray them, the editors being they, as the ones in the driver's seat this episode.
Well, they don't even talk about Devin, but he's got that chess game he's playing with Josh, and I think he's the one who brings up Kells.
No.
Josh is the one that started it.
Josh the one that brings him up? Okay.
Josh tells Devin who they're voting for, pretty much. That's the way it's shown by the editors.
Okay.
And that's the third funniest moment, is when they come together and Josh and Devin are like, oh, this is our first trusting moment together. And they kind of joke along about how now they're on the same side of an alliance compared to last season. But I thought it was hilarious when Josh and Fessy, right before elimination, are talking about who they will send in versus Kells and Tracy. And they talk, for the men, they throw out some names. And that's when I kind of thought it was odd that out of all of the names that they threw out, they didn't throw out Tommy. And then they get to the women, and they were talking about who they should throw in. And Josh is like, or Fessy's like, you know who we should throw in? And Josh looks at him and goes, who? And then Fessy kind of just has that look on his face, like, you know who. And he's like, no, 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 no. So my question is, over under on the amount of episodes that Amber B will go home. Do you think she's going to be on
I
quick?
would say I
think
think she's got a problem this season, even with this Veterans Alliance team rolling. Because like they're going to get to a point where they don't need all these numbers pretty quickly.
No,
And like it's one thing. Cause it is hard once you start the precedent of like chopping each other off. Those things that can just kind of snowball. But like I just think because I'm not scared of going into her and against her on elimination. The only thing I'm scared of her is in a final. So I just don't see why, if you're a woman on the show, you let her sit around. And then Fessy obviously doesn't want her around because it seems like she's probably gunning for him.
yeah. I mean, right now she's in a spot where they can use her as a number, but like, as soon as they don't need her anymore, they're going to cut her. Because I mean, the one thing you don't want to do on the challenge is come in late. You're going to get thrown in. Like you just are.
Because who is she really aligned with? Like who are?
That's
like,
my thing with her too.
Alliance?
I don't see who.
Okay, we're back on cue. Rob had some technical issues.
This is about to pat Mayo right now.
Yeah, I was like, when we were in the middle of going down, I was gonna message the group chat that we have with Pat and say, "Heaven help me." I don't even remember what we were talking about at this point.
Amber B.
We're talking about Amber B.
Yeah, we were talking about Fessy, Amber B, that situation, who Amber B is aligned with.
I think they're both not in great spots, to be honest.
You don't think Fessy is in a great spot?
I think he's going to be.
Oh my god, dude! Like, what do you want to like? Think of a bet you want to bet.
We've already put
Fessy right now.
Nelson versus Fessy. If you want to put more money on it, I will happily put more money on it.
Triple it.
Let's go! All right, I am here for that.
Dude.
I'm putting the sheet like, before he changes his mind.
He's like, if we're talking about like good edits, he couldn't have come off any greater this episode.
No,
he's the MVP of this episode, dude.
I would have said Josh is the MVP with Fessy a strong runner-up.
I mean, Josh is Josh got dunked on pretty hard, and
they gave the whole like Ramadan narrative with him. Talked about like how he was fasting for Ramadan. They did that before the mission. He wins the mission. He talks about like how good it felt to be able to win the mission when he wasn't sure how he would feel competing. After, he's the one in the driver's seat, and they make him look good throughout this entire thing. They make him look like he's
great talking to Kells.
Yeah, he looks fine. And then at the very end, the editors, once Kells go home, they flash to Fessy and give him a confessional, and that's how you execute a plan. They just like the editors just make sure that they throw that in. They didn't they didn't have to put that in there.
I get that. Like, I think it's funny. They're just talking not about the edit, just about what happened. I thought he and Josh got pretty like lucky to not have a fumble along the way here. It just pretty much
it could have happened for sure.
Because like Kells completely called them out on it at the deliberation. I think like
he
doesn't really hard to say what he should do in that situation. Like, what would you have done outside of calling out?
Kells does not call out Fessy at the deliberation. I don't even remember what for Josh, what does he even say to him? He just pretty much tells him that he doesn't have an alliance with anyone. And what I thought was good on what Kells did, I thought Kells handled that situation very well. One of the things that I thought he did well is that he literally went around to a number of people in the room and was like, have I made a promise to you? Have I made a promise to you? Every single person said no.
That's great. If you're going to get thrown in, that's the way that you go down to actually make a compelling argument. No one was going to change their vote and put Josh in. I think everybody knew Kells was going in. The thing that still blows my mind here is the rookies still have the actual numbers here since they have individual votes. It's not a team vote. It's an individual vote still. The fact that these jabrones can't get together and vote somebody in just makes me want to start going back.
I mean, we've talked about it. It's just like you have to get everybody in on it. It can't just be Kells and Priscilla and Ed and Esther and Trey and Tasha and like whoever actually seems to know what's up. Like, it has to be everybody.
Yeah, I think the problem.
Gabo and Bettina too. They have to be in on it. Like, it's just
that's the problem right there. Is half these rookies are smart enough to know that. You know, those Survivor players are smart enough to know that. You know that Kells.
I wonder what their plan is.
Somehow it seems like they're in a good position again.
I mean, we just say that. It was just one episode, though.
Dude, because it was so weird. So after, when Fessy and Josh were going over all of the men, for who to potentially throw into elimination, he says, who does he say? He says, they say Emmanuel, Coriel, throwing in Coriel again, Ed. They never say Tommy somehow when they talk about the women to throw in. They say Berna. They say someone else. Maybe. They don't say Michelle.
Berna, Emily, and then they head nod about Amber.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, so some background to that. I know Josh and Michelle had a very good relationship going into the season. They're actually like legit friends and real life outside. So it's possible that just with the Big Brother Alliance being the driving force here, that they felt like Survivor, if things do come to a point where the veterans split up a little bit more, the survivors could be on their side instead of the other one. Mm-hmm. So I think that may have been why we don't see their names mentioned here. I would not be surprised at all, especially now with Michelle being back on a rookie pair, if they're in trouble again next week.
Yeah. I think that the way the pecking order is going right now is there's like the foreign rookies, and then the Survivor people, and then there's like Amber B, and then there's the rest of the vets and Big Brother. That's really the hierarchy we're dealing with right now.
I just think it's whoever's open.
What do you mean?
I think it's because, like, well, with this, it's whoever's a double rookie team for right now, because you need to be able to put those ones in, and then after that, it's depending on what you want to do. This episode, they wanted the team that the house voted in. They wanted them to lose.
Which, by the way, we haven't really said this yet. Josh and Fessy, or maybe even Josh, because Josh really started the ball rolling on this. If you're a vet, Kells was absolutely who they should have been targeted.
Yeah.
And the fact that
Tori was the right move.
Yeah. And the fact that Josh even said the fact that Tori and Kells aren't partners anymore, it's easier to pull that trigger because we don't want to put Tori in. And so the fact that he got put on a rookie team, it made him easy pickings. And he was by far the biggest threat. I mean, he was obviously the most athletic of all those foreign rookies. He was also the one that seemed to have watched the show and knew what was going on. He is dangerous if he can play Wes and get some of those rookies on his team and moving in the right direction. So the fact that they were able to take him out, I mean, they made a great play. Like, bravo to Josh and Fessy and everybody that helped orchestrate that, because
they
it
have
worked.
to have Kells come back. He has to be on another season.
No, he has to come back. He was a great pick for them. I felt really bad for him.
I think they have to have Kells come back, and they have to have Ed come back too. I think Ed has been really good. Because
he's only had the episode. He brings just like a different like kind of energy to the show. He just clearly comes in and he's ready to go. But he's obviously, I mean, Ivy League engineer, so he has,
because there was that like really lighthearted moment even before elimination started, right, where he gets thrown in and he talks about like how he's fine with it pretty much.
Yeah. Or when he's chatting up Nelson at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this: I was very skeptical of him being cast because I think The Circle is a terrible show. I hated the first couple episodes and I quit watching it. So I was not interested in this guy coming on. I was wrong.
It's not your show.
He was great. Like, he really was great tonight. I thought he performed well. I thought his personality was good. He's mixing it up. Like, yeah, I'm with you. Kells and Ed need to be on future seasons. Like, they were great.
How about Emmy, by the way, calling everybody else snakes and stuff when she ratted out Michaela last week at the middle of the deliberation, and then this week is like flipping out with the helicopter.
Rob, give the background on that about exactly what happened with Amanda.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that with the list. So on the Challenge Aftermath show, I watched this week's Aftermath. It didn't have as much like background info as last week's did. They talked about how apparently Emmy and Corey L were going to be the house vote for elimination. That was pretty set in stone. But then Amanda was talking to Emmy and was like, hey, just to let you know, it looks like you're going to be the house vote. Is there anything you can give me that would maybe move the truck to somebody else? And then that's when she came up with the list that Michaela had talked about earlier.
All right. I think one of the most compelling parts of each episode is, or at least to this point in the season, is at the end of the episode when they pick new partners again.
Yes.
Because Ed and Emmy absolutely made the right move in the sense that they needed to pick new partners, because for a second it seemed like it may not actually happen. Off of how he was phrasing.
Emmy racking up the crying points this episode. She had 4 separate occasions I counted.
So let's go over Emmy's decision and Ed's decision.
Ed from last week.
acceptable choice. I think he could have done better. I think you could literally replay what we said last week for what
Casey.
he should have done. Casey is the answer. Rob, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I think that again. I'm a little bit lower on CBS than you guys are. I think Casey would have been. I think Tori's fine too. I just think you need a vet.
The only thing that makes me go why Tori was the better pick, and maybe Ed seems to kind of know what's going on here as well politically. If you get Tori, that opens up the target on Corey L to send him back in next episode. So you don't have to piss anybody new off. You're just pissing somebody off who's already been in and is already pissed off. So to me, it might have actually been a smarter play to pick Tori this episode because he's now got a veteran partner and he gets Corey back on a rookie team. So it's easy to target them again.
But by that same logic, would it actually have been a good pick to pick Amanda then? Because she's also very connected. And then Kyle goes out. And then Kyle's the one who's getting a new partner. And that's a vet.
I mean, I think Amanda would have been a great pick too.
Yeah. And she's clearly very connected as well.
Oh, yeah. She's been given a great edit to this point. Last episode and this episode. I mean, I think for me, she's still my slam dunk number one person that I think it has the best chance to win between the men and the women.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly with that assessment.
And then Devin for Emmy. He seems connected. Devin is just not going to show any loyalty to that pairing. But we said Michelle's wasn't that bad last week.
I mean, I think we all agreed that she could have done better.
I just think Devin's just Devin's not hesitating to push you under the bus. But I mean, most of these people aren't though. It's not like there's a lot of people to pick that would. I think Nelson's maybe the pick there. I don't know who else you're really thinking.
We talked about it. I mean, that was the first person we said last week. Nelson, Fessy, Corey, Kyle.
Well, it's not like Fessy or Corey or Kyle are gonna super loyal either, though.
None of the male vets are going to be all that loyal. Let's be real here.
It's Nelson, and then I think it's everybody else.
So I really think at this point, that for these rookie females especially, your best bet is to pick someone who will win a daily mission because it will keep you from being thrown in. So
Nelson is the last person you should choose.
So you really need to be pointing your fingers right now as if, well, obviously you couldn't pick Fessy this time. But to me, you're looking at Fessy, you're looking at CT, and you're looking at I forgot his name. It doesn't matter. Those are the
Corey?
two people Corey. He's the other one you're looking for.
I think that would have been fine too.
Because Kyle, sorry, I cut you off there, but Kyle is to me a bad choice because Kyle's game the last few seasons, on Vendettas, he just lied and backstabbed people left and right, all over the place. Ever since that season, he's played a very try to float under the radar type of game, and very rarely is he going balls out to win a daily mission. So he's the one that you want him not towards the end either, because he's the vet that they all feel just fine backstabbing, as recent history has shown. So you kind of want to stay away from Kyle.
All right. Let's talk about as we start to cross off the list of things that we need to talk about before we wrap up the episode. Let's talk about the love triangle between Nelson, Ashley, and Berna.
People were all asking me why Ashley was the second highest priced person in the challenge game. This is why Ashley is the second highest priced person in the challenge game.
Dude.
Well, you also don't know when she's gonna go home.
She could win, though.
She's either going to go out early or win the damn thing.
Yeah.
Or make to the final. It's one of those three. She's not going to just go home in the middle or towards the end of the season. It's no.
So
she's either going out early in a blaze of glory or she's going to the final. One of the two.
Yeah. So what do we think happens here, really? Is it Nelson's, not intending to do anything with Berna and it gets misconstrued? Or is Nelson just being Nelson and kind of falling into something?
No. I mean, I think what was happening is he was hooking up with Ashley. Super casual. They weren't even no one thought that there was any commitment going on whatsoever. And then he starts talking to Berna, and then Ashley tried to make it seem like she was more interested in Nelson than she was originally. And I think Nelson was caught off guard by that.
Yeah, he was definitely caught off guard.
Yeah. And based on the preview episode, they're casually hanging out because they live down the street from each other in Austin, Texas. So the fact that they might be hooking up, for funsies off the show, and then they kind of are hooking up on the show for funsies on the show too. The fact that Nelson was kind of paying attention and flirting with another girl, like that's the kind of shit that Ashley's going to lose her mind about. Like, to me,
Well, remember,
if you're hooking up with Ashley, you are playing with fire. If you ain't going to put a ring on that girl's finger, she will bite your ass off at some point.
remember on Rivals 3 when she was hooking up with Jamie, Kara's cousin, and then there's one episode where like just something weird, like something happened that didn't happen, and then she thought that Nicole, Nani's cousin, had made out with Jamie at the bar, and she lost her
loses her mind. And then Jamie walks in the bathroom and she starts like screaming at him, and he's like, "What in the world?" Or no, Nicole walks in the bathroom and she's like, "Get that bitch out of here!" and just freaking out. Yeah, like just good Lord. And by the way, how obliterated was Ashley in that fight that occurred outside the club? Like, she couldn't even see straight. She was so out of it.
That was back at the house, because at that point Amber B was just in street clothes. And it was Amber B and Huey trying to like talk Ashley down, and she kept calling Berna. What did she call her? Bertha?
She called her Bertha.
Yeah.
That's just not knowing somebody's name, right? That's not mispronouncing anything. That's just not
knowing.
No,
it's her. Name. It's her knowing what her name is and her calling her a name that is a different name and seemingly trying to get under her skin.
Yeah, it's the drunk name.
So, do we think this is bad for Berna, and she could just kind of like be a target because Ashley has power, and then
all the rookies are targets. All the rookies are. But I mean,
in the scale of who's the next rookie to be targeted.
I mean, let's talk about it now. Which rookies do we think are in the best position, and which ones do we think are in the worst? Like, are we confident in any of them being in slightly better positions than others?
I mean, my thing is like I feel like there's almost an inverse correlation between the ones who know what's going on and the ones who might be around a little bit longer.
Yeah,
because it seems like the Priscillas and the Esthers and Tashas of the world who seem like they have a bit of a clue about what's happening could also be people that they want to get rid of because they have a clue of what's going on. Whereas,
I don't know. I think Priscilla's sitting pretty right now, I think.
I guess Nelson's has enough equity where she might be able to ride for a little. Tasha, I think, is in real trouble because her and Jeremiah are another double rookie pairing. So that could be a problem.
I think Gabo is in a great place because he just is excited to be on American TV and he doesn't know what the fuck's going on.
So it's like
he's easily controlled.
Okay, let's talk about that.
He's like in a good position when like Philip is in a good position on Redemption Island because Rob is taking him to the end. Like that's the good position he's in.
Gabo talks this episode about how growing up he saw the Jersey Shore and it was his dream to be on American television. Come on.
He is gold, like TV gold. I mean, and it looks like he's a lot of fun to party with, so he's kind of in the Big Easy slot. And I don't mean that as a slide on Easy. Like, they're going to string him along for a while because he's funny, he's entertaining, and he's a threat to no one in the final.
Well, imagine how insulting that was just to him. You said he's in the Big Easy slot, and I don't mean to offend Big Easy. Like, Big Easy is now the one.
Well, I don't want to offend Big Easy because Big Easy, in a sense, redeemed himself on All Stars. I've bagged on him.
One elimination.
I really hope
he finished the final. I didn't think he was going to finish that final, and he did. So, like, I have to give the man his props. I have bagged on these people. And I feel like part of our show, why people like us, is we're fair. We might have differing opinions, but at least we need to be fair. And I need to be fair to Big Easy. He proved me wrong. So I don't want to bash the guy.
How did Big Easy prove you wrong? I thought Big Easy did exactly what we thought he would do.
Well, I just didn't think he was going to finish the final. Like, I didn't. I
think he finished.
I mean, he was really close, right? Because if he would have, who was he partners with at the eating one, right?
Yeah.
It was Jemmy, right?
With Jemmy.
Yeah.
Dude, he was pretty much like waiting for Jemmy to say, I can't do it.
He was trying to get her to quit, basically.
He was like, I'm done. Like, if you quit. I think he was cool with quitting if somebody else forced him to. But he still nutted up and finished. So, like, he didn't have to, and he did.
That's a really, interesting addition from an editor's perspective, right? They try and tell that story for Big Easy, and they include that. I'm glad they did, right? Yeah. It makes it much more interesting.
It really does. But to relate this back to Gabo, like, Gabo's sitting good because he's a threat to zero. Like,
Nani's his partner too.
Like, and she's really not a threat to anybody either. So, it's one of those things where you can take them to the end because they're not going to win a daily mission probably unless by some sheer stroke of luck something
how much of a
happens.
performer he is. Like if he gets in a hall brawl, he said he's popcorn muscle, so I guess
Yeah,
maybe
like
he wouldn't do so
I
good.
just don't think
Rob,
he is.
Like the Kaiser Soze strategy. Like,
Yeah.
let's
Well, he
hope.
told us that though. He didn't tell
I
at least
know.
from what we saw. He
Yeah.
didn't tell them
And
that.
I told you is that the joke is on us as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I see. Yes.
So it's one of those deals. It's one of those. Go ahead.
I just can't see this buffoon. It's just one of those things where he's just getting. You know what I mean? Like it's like I like when we come out of this season. Are we going to say Gabo was more impressive or Kells? Like maybe he's in a good position that he'll hang around for a while. I just have a very hard time seeing
Kells is going to make a much better impression, but Gabo, if you're a vet, you look at Gabo and you go, I'm saving him for when I might have to go in towards the end of the season because he's an easy win. Or if you get lucky enough and he and Nani make it to the final, they ain't getting through the final together and winning. So like you want to hang on to Gabo. Like I feel like he's in a great spot. He's not going to win, but he's going to hang around a long time, I think.
So, yeah, I think as far as rookies go, Gabo is definitely in a good position, I think. I honestly don't think the Survivor people being Michelle and Tommy, I don't think they're in that bad of a spot. Their names literally just didn't come up this episode somehow.
I just think it was based on how the power dynamic shifted. Like we saw last season, excuse me. Like Wes has that one episode where he's really not mentioned this. He has the heat on in the first episode. He's not really mentioned that much in the second episode. Then it's all back on him on the third episode, and he's basically in elimination. Like I just think, I don't know. I just don't. I think that he could very much swing back the other direction on them.
Who won the mission last week?
It was
Anissa and her
Anissa
partner.
And
yeah,
Anissa's first mission win that she always picks up.
But it was really the house that put them in over the idea that they were scheming, right? And that they had the list going.
I mean, to some degree, but it was also they were going to put in a double rookie. And like we said, then Emily was able to get the target off of her a little bit.
Yeah, and I know, right? So now I think that's what a lot of it was.
Like, what are the odds that it's one of...
I said last week that it was really like the narrative, right? It was the story that the house told themselves about how they could put who was it? Michaela and Brennan in, right?
Yeah.
Even though, like, seemingly, like, there could have been nothing going on. Go ahead.
Like, what are the odds we give that it's one of Michelle and Corey or Jeremiah and Tasha who are the house vote next week?
High, because it's double rookie pairs, and that's really all that matters. Right?
I legit think it's like 85%.
They really didn't have a reason for why to vote Kells in this week, right? That Josh pretty much fabricated this.
He just tried to gaslight him.
He didn't tell the whole truth.
With people. When really it just comes down to the fact Kells was a good rookie. He was also partnered with another rookie. It makes complete sense to put him in. And that's probably what's going to happen again next week.
Yep. Especially if a vet wins. Like if a vet wins the daily, which a vet probably will, yeah, they're toast.
Because the thing is, even if one of the rookie pairs wins and the other one just gets voted in by the house vote.
Yeah, totally.
I even think arguing almost which rookie is in the best position is just all right. Which rookie is going to be led along the most by the Veterans Alliance and then get cut off at the end.
So Gabo,
yeah, that's what we said. Gabo. It's Gabo.
Of all the rookies that have a shot to make the final, I would put $10 that he is the rookie that gets the furthest in the game.
If you have to pick a rookie,
I
think Huey's in a pretty similar boat.
No, I think being chained with Ashley's bad. Just bad juju for him.
Why?
Because Ashley's going to do something fucking stupid at some point.
Yeah,
I don't know about that. Like, but what was she going to do to get the two of them thrown in?
Dude, look at what happened in Total Madness, dude. Like, she can just go off at any moment.
But this is a completely different scenario. This is a scenario where she's part of the power group that has complete control over everything. In Total Madness, everybody had to go in at some point. She alienated the power group.
Yeah. I think you just have to decide, like, if you're the Amandas of the world that are in tight with her, if this situation with Nelson explodes, which it has every indication that that's going to just completely have a huge meltdown at some point, Are you more willing to keep Ashley, who can be a bit unstable and crazy at times? Doesn't mean anything bad about you, Ashley, but inside the game, you can be a little out there sometimes.
I think she would openly admit that herself.
I think
She
she
would
would be very
openly admit
open
that.
about saying that she can be
A
quite
lot to
volatile
handle.
in the. I mean, there's a reason that she keeps getting casted.
Yes, exactly. Or are you going to keep Nelly T, who's, regardless, like he'll get in some fights, but he's been on his best behavior since Dirty 30. Like he'll have some moments, but like
I
he's
mean, on
really
Total Madness,
received.
he's like every other episode where he's mixing it up and stuff. I have a very hard time buying that the two of them are going to come to the point where they're actually like targeting each other. I don't see that happening.
I don't know if they're going to target each other. It's just something stupid's going to happen, and the house is going to have to get rid of one of them.
I doubt that. I very much doubt that. I think they're both like in very good position to make the final as it stands.
Okay, I won't argue with him, but I just don't see that situation ending well.
All right, so instead of us talking about which veterans are in the best position, let's just talk about our power rankings because at this point that's synonymous.
Hey, before we do that, I feel like there's one other thing we need to talk about. With the partner switching stuff, Devin, you kind of hinted at this. This version of partner switching is light years better than the double agents thing with the rogue agent. The fact that we're eliminating two people at a time and it's staying even the whole way through, like, kudos to Buna Murray and the producers for fixing that problem, because this partner switching thing is phenomenal. And it was last year, but the whole rogue agent thing made it a little wonky. They fixed it this year, and this is like that format that I've been dreaming of for a long time, is this partner switching so that the politics have to keep evolving. Like, now that you don't have the rogue agent sitting out, I'm very happy with how this goes.
Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the format to this point.
I do think it's going to be pretty easy for the rest to kind of just snowball. I do think if they had like last place going in or some type of edit to the missions format, that would.
I think what like killed any breath that a Rookie Alliance had was last week when TJ said that they could put any two people into elimination.
Yeah,
and they didn't have to pick a pair. That absolutely just like pulled the life support.
Because that was my whole thing. I just thought format dependent that like it was going to be hard because there was just weren't going to be that many pairs for them to pick between that were double rookies. But now you only need one double rookies pair instead of two, and then the other one you just pick.
In hindsight, like we probably should have seen like something that coming, because they really were in the promos for the season pumping up the idea of the all veterans alliance.
Yeah, I was just trying to wrap my head around how that would function, and then I found out after.
Now we do. And then the other thing, Devin, you made the joke at the beginning of the show. Emmy calling TJ Mr. TJ was fucking hysterical. Mr. TJ, it was so funny. And then at the end of the episode where TJ called her Miss at the end, like Miss Emmy, it was just really funny, off the cuff. Like,
she's probably the most screen time of any of the rookies so far, right?
Yeah, this challenge is light years.
Well, Kels didn't really have much in episode 1 at all.
Yeah,
he had everything with Tori.
I get. I mean, she's been all over both these episodes.
Yeah, the thing that I've noticed, and I said it last week, it really looks like the cast is actually enjoying this game. The last two seasons, it felt like it was really mentally tough, and they weren't having as much fun. This looks like they're having fun with the politics. There's times where people are getting pumped up. They're clapping more enthusiastically. The joking around in the deliberation with Esther when she said what she did. Like, the fact that they're in a better location and they're getting some sunlight and they're all in a better mood, it's making the season better. So I'm extremely happy so far with what I've seen, and I'm excited again to see what happens next week.
What's Kel's real name? Oh, here we go.
Kalichi.
And who were we talking about? Kel's versus
Emmy in terms of episode time?
Yeah. So I'm looking up the confessional accounts right now.
And I have them right here.
They had the exact same number of confessionals. They both had 5. So
this episode? And then last episode?
In the first episode.
Okay.
In the first episode, there were 4 people that had 6. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I have them. It's funny. I have them both with 5 again this episode.
Yeah.
She's the perfect kind of hypocrite that's casted for the show. She really is. Like, I mean, being a hypocrite's like item number 1 and being casted on the challenge.
Like, unintentionally, a hypocrite.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's do it.
Let's get to winner rankings.
So, Rob, go ahead.
All right. For the men, I wouldn't change it from last week. Nelson 1, Corey 2, Devin 3. For the women, I still go Tori 1, Amanda 2, Nani 3. That is what I had last week.
Wait, say that again. Tori,
Amanda, Nani.
Amanda, Nani.
And then for overall, Nelson, Tori, Amanda. I do think like there could be someone who kind of just stumbles into a win here, just based on how this format's looking. If the final plays out the same way it was last season, where it's pairs. Remember, you could switch pairs in the final last season; it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that, like, I mean, if we get to the final and it's like Nelson, Devin, and Josh and Corey, and then on the guy's side, and then on the female side, it's Nani, Amanda, I don't know, whoever. Like, I just think there's a way that somebody we wouldn't expect to have a shot to win a season gets one here.
Okay. Trace?
What did I pick last week? I don't remember.
For the men, you had Nelson, Corey, CT. For the women, you had Tori, Amanda, Casey.
All right. I would flip Amanda and Tori. I think Amanda's 1, Tori's 2, and then Casey. And then overall, I still think all 3 women I feel much stronger about than the men. I feel like the men side.
For the men, what did you say?
The same 3. Like, I feel like the same 3 are still accurate. Okay. The women I would flip and make Amanda 1, Tori 2, and then Casey 3. And I still feel stronger that right now I would put all 3 women as my top 3 overall. I'm just not that confident on the male side yet. There's just too much volatility happening, and I never want to count CT out, but they have not really given him much screen time. They've really been highlighting these new characters, and we've talked about this before in the edit, where screen time does not necessarily mean you're going to win in the challenge, because we've seen it happen all the time. Yes was not heavily featured on All-Stars, wins the season. A lot of other indicators of that have happened through the years. It's not like Survivor, where Edgic has gotten so educated now, where it's like you can pretty much figure out who's going to win Survivor about halfway through. I can't say the same thing on the male side. CT's not gotten any screen time. Nelson's gotten a lot of screen time, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And then Fessy is getting the hero edit right now. And then Josh is looking really good. But, like, that doesn't mean anything to me yet. Like,
it's only been 2 episodes out of 19.
Yeah, I just don't have enough of a sample size to have a good guess. I feel way more confident on the women, period, than I do the men right now.
Okay. So I'm going to go Amanda. Amanda 1, Tori 3, and I guess Ashley 2. For the men, I'm going to go Fessy 1. I'm going to go Corey 2, and then Nelson. And then for overall, I'm going to go Amanda. Actually, I'm going to go Amanda. For the women, I'm changing it. I'm going to go Amanda, Casey, Tori. And then I'm going to go overall, I'm going to go Amanda, Fessy, Casey, I guess. Okay.
All aboard the Amanda train. Wow, I was one who was pumping her up before the season.
She's in a great spot.
like we talked about, someone, despite how shitty this cast is, someone has to win, 1. And 2, like, she couldn't be getting a better edit. She's in complete control. And the only reason that they've included her in the episode to this point have been for positive reasons overall.
What are the chances she sees an elimination this season?
Close to 0.
Yeah. Extremely minimal.
You can always find your way to fall into one, though.
Yeah, we're just saying there's a low probability.
So what, like 30%?
The way that she gets thrown in is if the Big Brother teams towards the very end of the game, when it's going to be mostly vets, they're going to have to pick somebody to go in, and they're going to pick her probably because they haven't played with her before.
I mean, it could just be like Tori.
I just think the three Big Brother people plus Devin, those four, I think are really tight this season.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And then who knows how close Michelle is with them, right? Like Rob, like you brought up, it could be the reason that Michelle and Tommy didn't get brought up in this conversation because they're really tight with Big Brother too, and they don't necessarily want the other veterans to know about that.
Indeed.
All right.
Good stuff.
For the second episode that we do this week, we'll do another one later in the week. What that will be, we don't know yet. If you'd like to give us a recommendation on what we should do, message us on Patreon, message us in Discord. You can also email us for anything in general at thechallengechronicles@gmail.com. If you'd like to become a patron again, we'd really appreciate it. You can go to patreon.com/thechallengechronicles. What else?
I think that was it.
I think that's it.
I think we
All
good,
right,
man.
Cool. We'll be back with you again next week to cover episode 3 of Spies, Lies, and Allies. Have a good week.